Hey, GW coming to you live on demand on your YouTube channel. Hey, listen, couple things. First of all, the last review I did was about Rosemary's Baby, and I know I screwed up when I paused in the middle and said Mia Farrow. That's not who I mean. What I was really thinking, guys, was Mia Sorvino, who fell off the face of the earth, and somehow I got those confused. So right off the bat, I wanted to apologize for a lackluster spot in my review. Okay, so that being said, second thing is I told you at the end of that review that we would also do The Strangers, we'd do anything else, but come to find out, guys, I've already reviewed The Strangers 1 and 2. I gave you the lowdown on those. And the third thing, which I know people who see these, they come up to me and they say, Greg, what is your thoughts on Halloween? How come last year on your countdown you did not put down one of the greatest horror films of all time, and that's Halloween? Well, I'm going to address that, guys. Because Michael Myers is synonymous with Halloween. You see leaves fall, you think of, Laurie Strode standing outside the school, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, with her friends, looking behind the bushes, and seeing if you see a boogeyman. The reason that I didn't address this is because, to me, Halloween has become too commercialized. It was actually one of the most top-grossing independent films of all time. If you guys don't know that, you should check out Wikipedia and see the exact figures on that. It was also put together by John Carpenter. John Carpenter directed The Thing with Kurt Russell. He also did one of my favorite films, Christine, based, very, very strictly on the Stephen King novel. And Carpenter also did the sequel with Deborah Hill. In fact, Deborah Hill helped on the first one. And Carpenter also directed a movie called The Fog, which Adrienne Barbeau was in. And I just thought it was too commercial. And everybody, on Halloween watches Halloween. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a tradition. So the reason I didn't put it down is because everybody has seen it. Now, if you haven't seen it, because I did leave it out, I am going to review it and tell you what I think about the film. And actually, you know what? We'll go through every Halloween movie, not including the Rob Zombie movies, because I'm going to leave them alone, because I think as much as I love Rob Zombie, I think the public has their own opinion about that. I'm not going to voice my opinion about these. I'll just say I have them in unrated form, and I watch them quite a lot. Do I like them? Yes. Do I think they could have been better? Yes. Am I on the fence about whether or not they should have been touched? Yes. But if anyone was going to do it, I'd rather have him do it than, say, the director for Love Boat. I mean, just pulling a name out of the hat. So anyway, being that this is Halloween, we are going to start out the countdown with Halloween, and that's how we're going to do it. So because I left it out last year, we're going to roll right into it, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts about the Halloween franchise. All right, guys. So if you don't know what Halloween is about, or you just turned it on and really didn't know exactly what was going on in the whole movie, or you caught the middle to the end and want to know what's going on, I will tell you. First of all, I believe this picture was made in... should tell you. I'm looking at the Blu-ray, guys, and the writing is very small. I'm going to go out on a limb and say 79. I'm going to go out on a limb and say 79. It's in the late 70s. But in any way, here's what the film is about, guys. In case you don't know, I'm going to rehash it for you. On a Halloween night, Michael Myers murders his sister. Brutally murders her. And is taken away and put in the Smith Grove Sanitarium. That's located in Haddonfield, Illinois, guys. And what happens is that he breaks out on Halloween to kill his other sister, played by, he breaks out of the thing to kill Jamie Lee Curtis. And he wants to celebrate by turning the little town of Haddonfield into a war zone, a massacre zone, if you will. And he sets his sights on Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. Helping Laurie in her attempt to thwart being killed is Dr. Loomis. And Dr. Loomis was Michael Myers' psychiatrist. He's played by the late Donald Pleasence. Now, Donald Pleasence was also in another movie, guys, called Afraid of the Dark, where he played a mental patient. It's worth checking out. It really is. And basically, you could see a pattern from this film to that, or that film to this film, because some of the things that he's worked on has dealt with mental patients, obviously. But this film became a really high-grossing thing at the box office, so much so that they made Halloween 2. Now, if you watch this and think that this film has a solid ending, I got to tell you guys, it does not. It continues into the second movie. But this film is good for a number of reasons. Like I said, it was one of the most highest grossing independent films of all time. It's also been commercialized, and it also brought the idea of the boogeyman being real life. Now, in this one, it's funny, Michael Myers is credited as the Shape. So he went from Michael Myers to the Shape. Now, also in this film, guys, you don't really see it, but they hint around it later on in the franchise that Michael might have been a product or has dealings with an entity that makes him unkillable. That is basically the idea driven in later on in the films. But this has some really cool kill sequences. One memorable scene is that oh, by the way, before I get into the kill scenes, there actually is a hint that Michael Myers has superhuman strength. Now, how do we know this? Because in the later scene, when Laurie Strode discovers her friend sprawled out on the bed, his mother's tombstone, mother's or sister's tombstone, I can't remember, is laying on the bed. Presumably, Michael had dug it up and moved it himself. That's how we know he has supernatural strength. The other thing that's pretty cool, like I was just saying, was the kill sequences. And it also actually brought the idea of the heroine defending herself. You saw that in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where Sally Hardesty jumped out of the window. You know, she defended herself. Laurie Strode defends herself by jamming a coat hanger into Michael's eye from a closet, which is a really tense scene. It's a white knuckle scene. Also shoving a needle, I believe, in his neck. Now, like I said, this thing was open-ended. And what originally happened, I saw a documentary on this, I could be guessed right about it, guys, was the fact that toward the end, Carpenter wanted to make a sequel. He showed it to test audiences, and basically they were upset how the original film ended. So what did Carpenter do? He left the ending open for a sequel. That brings us to Halloween 2. Alright, the first one had to have been set in 1979, because this bad boy came out a couple years later in 1981. This picks up exactly the moment that Halloween 1 ended. Where, if you haven't seen the film, I'm not going to ruin the ending, but let's just say that they think Michael's dead, and he's not. He's gone. So, what happens in this one? He actually is now fixated on a hospital where his sister's living, and he will kill anyone to get in his way. Again, Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, is in here hiding in the hospital. Donald Pleasence again makes a return as his psychiatrist. Now, as this goes on, you see more and more witchcraftian elements in it. The word Samhain carved in to to a chalkboard, I believe, where he grew up. This was actually supposed to be the last in the Halloween franchise because Halloween 3, which I got to talk about real quick, has no place in this franchise. Because what did they do, guys? I'll tell you what they did. They took Halloween 3, they took a different detective. I think David Atkins played in that film. He was in Night of the Creeps as the detective. I think that was his name. And it was about a cult of witches or warlocks or demented toy makers, depending on what your idea is, who wanted to kill thousands of kids on Halloween with masks that melted and turned the kids into zombies. Or just slaughtered them and, sacrificed them to the greater demon. It was very, very bad at best. It is a cult film now. But the one thing that you will know if you watch that film is the tagline for the commercial of the company that made the masks in the film. It goes, "Happy, happy Halloween, happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock." And if you guys heard that, it resonates in the back of your head. You can't get rid of it. So, number 3, before I even get into more of this, has no place in the Halloween timeline lineage. It has no reference to Michael Myers, no reference to The Shape. Totally different topic. And it kind of failed at the box office, and I think you could see why. You have 2 movies with a slasher, killer, with big name headlines, Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasence, who, were not matched in number 3. So, basically, that's that. This one was again directed and written by John Carpenter, and he wanted to close this out. In fact, the ending of this really should have been the end of Michael Myers. If you go back and watch the ending, Michael is incinerated. I'm not going to lie. This also, one notable thing in the introduction credits, actually had a pumpkin turn into a skull. And it was very cool. So, I think I have actually a picture of that, guys, I want to show you. But the intro was pretty cool because it took you in the pumpkin and the pumpkin slowly started splitting up. It was great. It was also, these 2 films were also produced by Mustafa Akkad. Now, okay, I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't Mustafa Akkad. Yes, it was. Mustafa Akkad and Dino De Laurentiis. Those are guys who created their own film corporation. They produced this. They put this thing out. So, it's pretty cool. And it's just a continuation of the first one. Did I like the 2? Yes. Do I think they should have stopped? No, because I'll tell you why. Because after the failure of part 3, there was interest to bring Michael back for Halloween 4. Halloween 4 kind of shows you the aftermath of what happened after the hospital climax in part 2, and it also introduces another horror heroine legend, Danielle Harris. Now, for those guys who don't know who Danielle Harris is, she was in about 2 or 3 of these. She was in the remake with Rob Zombie. She was in the movie Hatchet. She was in a movie called, I can't think of the name of it. She's been in a bunch of horror films, guys. All Hallows Eve. That was the name of the movie she was in because the prequel to that was Terrifier. And All Hallows Eve dealt with a psychotic clown. So, guys, you can do the math. But Danielle Harris was also in the Bruce Willis vehicle, The Last Boy Scout. So, this was one of her biggest claims to fame was the Halloween franchise. And I used to have a crush on her, guys. I'm not going to lie. Every movie she was in, I had to get. I thought she was pretty wild. She has since dropped out. I think after the Rob Zombie remake, she has made limited appearances on direct-to-video, films. But hey, she's still out there. She's still kicking, and she still has this to put under her belt. So, in case you guys didn't know, Michael kills 16 people in 1 and 2. Because the body count's there. But these are not a body count film. Now, they turned into body count films later on, yes. Now, after Michael was unsuccessful trying to kill Jamie Lee Curtis, he sets his sights on his niece, Jamie Lloyd, played by Dannell Harris. And she is the orphan daughter of Laurie Strode. Now, remind you, I'm going to be talking about the new Halloween in just a couple of minutes, but remember, from what I say here on, the illegitimate child of Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, none of this matters if you jump from 1 and 2 and go right to the new film. So just wanted to tell you guys, there's no continuation. Just saying. Because there's no mention of it in the new film. Anyway. So he's after her and her sister, her babysitter, Rachel. Now, coincidentally, around this time, there was talk of a Halloween video game. It fell through, and IllFonic was not around to make it. However, there was a Flash game called Escape from Michael Myers, which happened shortly after number 4 or number 5. It was never seen from again. Hopefully, IllFonic, you take note and make a Halloween game, much like you did the Friday the 13th game, only I hope the Halloween game gets a lot more DLC than the Friday the 13th, because I was a Kickstarter on that, but I'm not going to go into that. I would just love to see more, and I'm sorry the lawsuit wrecked that. But anyway, back to this. It's another body count film. This one ends up culminating in a mine. Michael is shot, about, 300, 400 times, depending, knocked into a mine shaft. Now, there was an alternate ending for this, but you could see it. There is a making of Halloween 4 Final Cut. This was really supposed to be the end of the film, but it actually got some notoriety. Why did it get notoriety? For its twist ending, which I'm not going to go into, and its really intense use of graphic violence. Now, this thing was made, just trying to see what the graphic violence was. I want to say this was 86, 87. I don't know. But anyway, there is the movie poster for Halloween 4. And I remember seeing this as a kid. I had no idea what the hell Michael was doing, but it looked pretty creepy. I just figured he was going to go into that White House and, stab up some people. Which, that's the other thing. Michael always uses a butcher knife. Very rarely do you see him with anything in his hand bigger than a butcher knife. And number 2, he stabbed a nurse with a needle. So either Michael cannot handle big weapons, like a chainsaw or something like that, or he prefers little ones because they're durable and he knows how to use them. Now, the other thing about these films is that I believe in this film, you actually get a glimpse of the man underneath the mask. I am not sure. There is a hint of that, and I think in part 5, oh yeah, we went to part 5. I don't know which one that is. Maybe I don't have part 5 here. But part 5 actually continues with Michael being resurrected from the mine shaft and goes on a killing spree again for Dannell Harris. And that film, I believe, you get to see his face for only a split second. Now, part 6. I actually saw this in the movie. This is The Curse of Michael Myers. Now, a couple things are wrong with this film right off the bat. Number 1, we're right now in supernatural territory with Michael because he stopped being a slasher. a killer. He is now something of a druid, witchcraftian, warlock, I don't even know, entity, I guess you could say. I saw this film in the theater, and my friend Michael McGallis came with me. He was an expert on all this stuff. He had watched all these. I had not seen it. I just knew Michael Myers was a killer. I wanted to go see it. This has some decent kills, but the problem is that Jamie Lee Curtis's character is not Jamie Lee Curtis. She's not in here. Now, let's see. Is Danielle Harris in here? No Danielle Harris. So right off the bat, they're switching things around. And this time, you really get a sense they bring druids into this thing. So if if it was normal now this whole franchise is flipped upside down because it seemed like the screenwriters didn't know what to do, and we're going to add druids into it to give Michael a supernatural quality about him. Problem is it never made any sense. It was just there for being there. You know what I mean? Now, again, this stars Donald Pleasence. And this one was also put out by Dimension. Dimension actually bought the rights to the franchise right after, I believe, Halloween 5, if not during. They had to acquire everything, and they bought this. Now, they tell you on this, the long hidden secrets of Screen's most maniacal murder are revealed. But it doesn't make any sense, guys. It's a fun watch, but from a story point of view, if you're building anything toward it, it doesn't make any sense worth anything. So, that's that. And it was, like I said, it has some good kills. Michael throws a girl on a thresher combine, which is pretty sweet. But other than that, the story lagged. There was no real narrative. It was just another body count film kicked out by Dimension Home Video. Now, they did make, and I'm not sure what order these go into. Okay, so after that film, they saw the franchise was lacking, and what did they do? They got Jamie Lee Curtis back to play in Halloween H2O. That movie was supposed to reinvigorate the franchise, but more or less it was beating a dead horse. Because in that film, first of all, at the end of the film, guys, if you've seen it, Jamie Lee Curtis, we've all wanted to see her kill Michael Myers at this point. Because some of us, we're tired of it. We're tired of the druids. We're tired of the witchcraft. We just want to see, this thing put to bed. I'm just saying that's what the critics said. That's what some of the people said. So what do? They get Jamie Lee Curtis to show down with Michael Myers, only to find out it wasn't Michael Myers in the end of that film. Now, Dimension made this. Halloween Resurrection. Now, part of the reason that this thing was made is because Busta Rhymes' up-and-coming rap career was going on. So he decided to, jump in and make a movie, for the kids, But this was really, again, supposed to be the end of Michael Myers. I cannot stress that enough. Because if you look at how poorly the last few entries have done at the box office during this time, this thing was supposed to end it all on a high note and give everybody, their stuff. Problem is I believe this is the film Jamie Lee Curtis dies in 5 seconds into it. So they built this whole campaign around, well, Jamie Lee Curtis going to come back and she going to kill Michael Myers this time. No. Filmmakers said, no, we're going to let Busta Rhymes do it. This film is entertaining, and it's not as dull or stupid as the other ones, but it is up there in the absurd category. Why do I say that, guys? Because here's the premise of it. reality programmers at Danger Entertainment, it's a fictional company, guys, and a group of thrill-seeking teenagers spend one fun-filled night in the childhood home of Michael Myers. There is a live broadcast. It's going to be on cable TV. Y'all should tune in right now and check it out. What happens? What could possibly go wrong? Can anybody raise their hand and tell me? I will tell you for you. Michael shows up and decides to knock these kids off one at a time. That's what happens. So, entertaining, yes. More than the other sequels, yes. Do I think they were running out of steam at the train on this one? Quite possibly. Because now you're just throwing in, actors, you're throwing in rappers, and that's cool. Don't get me wrong, Dimension. I like what you did. But the problem with it is that after you killed Jamie Lee Curtis, some people, the party was over. It was entertaining. Now, there is a couple of cool things with this. One of them on the DVD, you can actually tour the Myers house. You can see things. If you ever wanted to see the room that he grew up in, it's all fictionally recreated right here for you. All right. There is a headcam featurette, which is pretty cool. There's deleted and alternate scenes, some of which are pretty cool. Not gonna lie. I just wish I had Halloween H2O I could show you. So, guys, after that, the franchise lay dormant for a while. Nobody really knew what to do with it. And then, a year ago, Danny McBride. And if y'all don't know Danny McBride, he was on the Pineapple Express. There had been a long kickback of what to do with the Halloween franchise. Finally, Danny McBride said, look, we'll take the first one. We'll even take the second one if you want. We'll make a third film. Disregarding all the Danielle Harris stuff, all the Mineshaft stuff, all the Busta Rhymes stuff. We're just going to cobble that up, throw it away, because that's where the film industry, or the film franchise, started losing steam. We started going down the mountain. We wrecked into a tree. So we're not going to do it. So what did Danny McBride do? He made Halloween, a direct sequel to the Jamie Lee Curtis vehicle that was so independently successful in 1979. Or 78. I'm sorry. And what happened? You can watch number one, you can watch number two, and jump right into this one. It's a direct, almost direct sequel. And it's not cheesy. It has the same vibe as the original two. Now, rumor has it, and it's more than a rumor, is that basically they're making two more films. Halloween Kills, which might be out next year, and Halloween Ends. There's going to be 5 movies. Well, 4 if you don't count number 2. But if I'm telling you guys, I've said it before on one of my previous reviews, the new Halloween movie, I was reluctant to watch because I thought it was going to be stupid, but I got to tell you something. It's very well done, and Danny McBride directed the thing. So if you go back to Pineapple Express and you look at, the stoner character he did there, he does one hell of a good job on this. So my closing thoughts on the Halloween franchise was, it's good if you go number 1, you don't have to throw number 2 in there, but go right into the new one. Because that way, you're not dealing with the absurd stuff. Now, these films are good. Don't get me wrong. Except for 3. 3 does not fit in the timeline. I told you guys about that. Don't mess with number 3. But they're fun to throw on. And the reason I didn't mention them last Halloween is, like I said, they're too commercialized. Everybody knows, what are you doing on Halloween? Oh, I'm watching Halloween. You turn on TBS. They got Halloween 4, 5, and 6 on. The only reason I didn't add them is because I thought it was too overdone. And here's a quick question for you guys. Before Michael Myers came in, who was the number 1 mascot of Halloween? I'll give y'all 5 seconds to answer. Okay, nobody can come up with it. It was the Crypt Keeper. Guys, EC Comics and Bill Gaines' creation, the Crypt Keeper. Next time I do a review, I'm going to count down my favorite episodes of Tales from the Crypt for you guys, because there's some really cool stuff in there. So I hope you learned something about my Halloween review list and what I thought about it. And I hope you guys learn a little something about the way I look at movies, because some of these are good, some of these and some of them you just go, what were they thinking? So look, GW, I'm out. And like I said, man, sorry I messed up the last review. I was just going top speed. I just wanted to come back on, and tell you I'm back from vacation. And hey, we're going to rock it, because I love doing this, like I said. And you know what? We're going to make it 2 more years on this bad boy. It's GW, I'm out. And y'all have a happy Columbus Day, all right?